Dred Scott v. Sandford, 1857, is widely regarded as one of the worst decisions in United States Supreme Court history. Rather than limiting slavery, the court strengthened it, deepened the nation's divisions, and pushed the country closer to the Civil War. Dred Scott was an enslaved man owned by an army surgeon named Dr. John Emerson. During the 1830s, Emerson took Scott to Illinois, a free state, and later to the Wisconsin Territory, where slavery had been prohibited under the Missouri Compromise of 1820. After returning to Missouri, a slave state, Scott argued that because he had lived for years on free soil, he should legally be considered a free man. After unsuccessfully seeking his freedom in Missouri's courts, he brought a lawsuit in federal court against John F. A. Sandford, the executor of Emerson's estate. The Supreme Court faced several constitutional questions. Could an African American, whether enslaved or free, be considered a citizen of the United States and therefore have the right to sue in federal court? Did Congress have the constitutional authority to prohibit slavery in federal territories through the Missouri Compromise? And did Scott's residence in free territory make him legally free? Writing for the 7-2 majority, Chief Justice Roger B. Taney ruled against Scott. The court held that people of African descent whose ancestors had been brought to the United States as enslaved people were not citizens under the Constitution and therefore could not sue in federal court. The court also ruled that Congress lacked the constitutional authority to prohibit slavery in federal territories, declaring the Missouri Compromise unconstitutional. Finally, the court concluded that enslaved people were considered property under the Fifth Amendment, meaning Congress could not deprive slave owners of that property simply because they entered a federal territory where slavery had previously been banned. 2 justices dissented, arguing that free African Americans had been recognized as citizens in several states when the Constitution was adopted and that Congress did possess the authority to regulate slavery in federal territories. They criticized the majority for reaching constitutional questions that were unnecessary to resolve the case. The decision immediately became one of the most controversial rulings in American history. Instead of settling the national debate over slavery, it intensified political conflict between free and slave states and became one of the events that accelerated the nation's path toward the Civil War. Today, Dred Scott v. Sandford is remembered primarily as a warning about how the Supreme Court can fail to protect constitutional rights. The decision was effectively overturned after the Civil War by the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, and the 14th Amendment, which established that all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens entitled to equal protection under the law. Although the ruling no longer has legal force, it remains one of the most significant examples of how constitutional interpretation can profoundly shape a nation's history.